Hello everyone and welcome. Today guys, we are here with the Battle of Battles. We're going to be having a showdown between the forces of Jabba the Hutt. We're going to be taking on the armies of Thorgrim Grudgebearer for the Battle of the Porcelain Throne. So right here we do have Lord Mazdamundi, or Jabba the Hutt as we call him, riding on his glorious toilet seat, and he is going to be challenged for his right to sit on the throne by the High King Thorgrim Grudgebearer, who is also riding on a golden throne as well. So all jokes aside guys, let's go ahead and take a look at these army compositions. So over here in Vanguard, I do have three groups of chameleon skinks, and I really think they're pretty essential in this matchup. Number one, they're very effective at shutting down gyrocopter play. So if the dwarves are going to be using gyros with their armor-piercing missiles, I think these are the brimstone guns, they actually do pretty well against dinosaurs. So having some chameleons on the ground that can follow them and also have missile resist to endure quarrelers and cannon fire and all kinds of stuff. Well, not cannon fire, but quarrelers and kind of missile fire. I think that the chameleons are a pretty good choice. So we're going to be chasing down the gyrocopters with the chameleons, but the main reason I bring them is not because of the gyrocopters. One of the better answers against big dinosaurs is slayers. So if they have a group of slayers, for example, and let's see if my opponent does. I actually don't think he ended up bringing any. He brought a really elite army. So his entire core is like iron breakers, and I think he has like the peak gate guard in the back. So it just totally did not work out for the chameleons. But if they have a group of slayers chasing down some of your big dinos, you can shoot them down with the skinks and poison them and really do a lot of damage against their light armor. On top of that, I do have a couple of groups of the Pterodon riders here, so just the standard poison variant, and I actually like them. Again, very good against gyros, and if they do have cannons and artillery in the back line, you can just sit these guys behind the artillery, and as units rout, you can also pick them off with the Pterodon riders. But it's going to be a little bit tough considering that my opponent is so heavily catty-cornered here. So we're going to see what we can do with the Pterodon riders, but for now we should be able to fend off the gyros. Generally speaking, though, with the Lizardmen, one of the best ways to beat the Dwarfs is to go very wide, because most Dwarf players are going to be anticipating big dinosaurs like Krok-Gar and Zlok and, Rev Crystals and Bastiladons and things like that. So if you just go very, very wide with Saurus Warriors, I honestly think that's the best way to win the matchup. So we do have 1, 2, 3, I think 6 in the front line, and they don't have the best armor-piercing values, 52 weapon strength overall, with 18 of that being armor-piercing. So they can kind of wear through Dwarven lines, and Saurus Warriors are just a very, very solid infantry, in general. So that's my entire front line. I do have two groups of skink skirmishers or skink javelins out on the far sides of the formation. They're actually cohorts as their base unit. They're also pretty good for the same reason. They can poke down rangers, they can poke down gyrocopters with their missiles, can also focus slayers. I definitely like them quite a bit. Over here we have some clever girls. So we have the feral cold ones, which are just a velociraptor basically, and they have decent AP, but honestly, I just had like 500 left, and I wanted to bring something a little bit more interesting. So we'll see if these clever girls can get the job done. On top of that, we do have Gary, the Rev Crystal, back here, so he's ready to party. He's smiling happily as his little skinks. That guy, that does not look like sure footing. I don't know. That just does not look like he's actually standing on that thing right there. But anyways, last but not least, the King of the Porcelain Throne, he's a challenger. I think Thorgrim is definitely the true king of the Porcelain Throne, but Mazdamundi is the new kid on the block, and he's going to be trying to claim it for himself. So he's really good against dwarves. Ruination of Cities and Banishment can really wreck tight formations. We have Apotheosis, Curse of the Midnight Wind, and Harmonic Convergence. That's pretty much it from my army for the dwarves. 2 gyrocopters, which on paper, pretty good against dinosaurs, and a lot of Lizardmen players aren't really going to bring like Pterodon riders and things like that, so he probably wasn't expecting this. But you can see we're going to be able to push them back here, but not a bad choice. In the front line, he's got some miners with blasting charges, which I do like against the dinos. Dino infantry are very lightly armored, so having the miners with blasting charges to kind of soften them up for you is always a pretty good choice in my opinion. They're going to be backed up by the Thorgrim Grudgebearer here, who's going to be giving the Great Book of Grudges, making their melee attack actually decent for its cost. But the rest of his army is just elite. So he has Norgrimling's Ironbreakers here, Ironbreakers, Peak Gate Guard in the back, Ironbreakers, and Ironbreakers. This is going to be a very, very tough army to crack. So without further ado, guys, let's get the show on the road. So right now, my skinks are advancing. I think they were hidden until just a moment ago, so I'm going to be pushing forward, trying to poke away, and I mean, ultimately, there's no good targets here. I mean, these guys do have shields and 125 armor. The miners and the rangers aren't bad targets, though, and if I can kind of draw it out into a very, grindy game, maybe they'll do pretty well. You can see right here, the chameleons are shooting into the gyrocopter with the brimstone gun and actually doing some pretty substantial damage. You can see he's getting worn down despite his 100 armor, because that's a lot of volume of fire here. So I couldn't see his rangers because rangers do have stock, so I was flying around with my Pterodon riders, trying to find out what was going on. I can drop some rocks, but I tend to save that for the late game when it's very close and dwarven forces are blobbed up. So I do discover those rangers there with my scout of Pterodon riders, and I'm just going to be flying into the distance, trying to zone him out. But my opponent does have a cannon, so he's doing a very good job with this cannon, just kind of shooting into my Pterodon riders and zoning me out, which is going to give a little bit more freedom to these gyrocopters. But still, my forces are advancing. You can see Jabba the Hutt just proudly waddling through the desert. Definitely not his ideal climate. You got to work with what you got here. So the lizards, we're closing in on the dwarves. We're definitely going to be taking some blasting charges here. And the skinks are doing a really good job just kind of screening these guys out, because if I didn't have these kind of anti-air options, he would just be able to shoot at Jabba. He could shoot over here at my Rev Crystal, Gary, and Gary definitely wouldn't appreciate that. So a huge volley going right into those gyrocopters, doing about 7 or 8% damage. And the Pterodon Riders are really getting torn up, but honestly, I'd rather the cannon shoots at them than Jabba. Jabba is considered a large entity, so he will suffer the anti-large shenanigans here. So, in the meantime, just trying to circle around. Now that the Rangers are focusing on some other targets, you can see they're shooting at the Chameleons, which you definitely understand that. I'm going to be using a Ruination of Cities, so Jabba gets a huge Ruination. You can see the first one just sending these dwarves flying. The other one goes in a decent direction. Does it reach those Ironbreakers? It looks like it does, and that actually did some okay damage. Those Rangers just got torn to shreds, and a lot of people cut Ruination of Cities, but honestly, I think, especially against dwarves, it's just a must-bring ability, because their formations are usually somewhat tight. So the Rangers are actually wavering just from that Ruination of Cities. Definitely, Mazda Mundi's letting his rage loose here. And you can see the blasting charges are going into my skinks here, which is probably a decent target for them. I mean, Saurus are going to be good too. Blasting charges coming in. Saurus warriors are going to be charging into the face of some blasting here. It looks like they're enduring pretty well in the middle. The skinks, not so much. They're down to 104 models and are very beat up. So what I do now with my Pterodon Riders, I just kind of position them behind my opponent's army. I'm just going to be shooting into these cannons, which is going to take a while, but I figured the Rangers were pretty much offline, and I should be able to take them out relatively quickly. So I figure I can just take out this cannon here and just kind of poke it for the remainder of the fight. So the Saurus in the front line in a very grindy fight versus the Miners. I definitely will win the Miners fight, especially with Jabba nearby casting Harmonic Convergence, Curse of the Midnight Wind, and things like that. But, the Ironbreakers are going to take an eternity to break down. He does have the Peak Gate Guard in Auxiliary, so he's going to be charging in pretty hot and heavy here. So I think I tried to use a Banishment. I was trying to time it, as they came forward, which was a little bit of a mistake. I should have just cast it, right here. But it clips them. It looks like it takes out one model, but it does also go over these cannons right here, and it's doing some okay damage. I would say, all in all, that was a bit of a fail, but actually gets into those Ironbreakers there with its last charge. Okay, that made it worth it all of a sudden, just right into that group there, which is very good. So my skinks are trying to fend off the gyros, who are just trying to snipe out Lord Mazda Mundi here. I do get my Rev Crystal healing them up, so that's going pretty well for me, but the Saurus they're holding their own. I mean, the Miners are pretty much buckled, but now I have to face the Peak Gate Guard, who are just the Destroyer of Worlds. These guys are just racking up kills. They have Armor Sundering, so these Saurus Warriors, who already only have 60 armor, I think, what is it, like 30 that it takes away? Yeah, put them down to 30 armor, so they're going to be much squishier now. And you can see I'm using Shield of the Old Ones, Harmonic Convergence, Apotheosis, just everything to keep that front line together, because, I really didn't want him to be able to chase after my skinks here. Granted, the dwarves probably wouldn't be able to catch him anyway. So Gary gets in the back line. He's taking some blasting charges, but Gary has a lot of armor. Looks like he is going to be getting stuck up on a cannon there, which is pretty tough. And you can also see the Peak Gate Guard coming in. So even though they're anti-infantry, oh no, Gary, no. Man, he just looks heavy metal. He's like an 80s action hero, just like walking through the flames right now. But anyways, you can see the Peak Gate Guard with their 70 models. I do not want to be taking that. Even though they're meant against infantry, their melee attack is still 60 plus against 28 melee defense. So if Gary were to sit there and fight, he would just not last long at all. So Gary's going to be fleeing through the troops right now, but it looks like he's getting caught up a little bit, which is tough. My three groups of Chameleons a little bit blobbed up, so a little bit noobish on my part. Had some blasting charges come in that would have been bad, but I guess he already used most of them. But I am able to get rid of the gyrocopters, so that was definitely very good. But it's still looking tough. I mean, Thorgrim Grudgebearer is in pretty much perfect shape. He is surrounded by some Saurus, which is good for me. Granted, there's only 30 of them, and Thorgrim is a very strong combatant himself, So yeah, there's a lot of Ironbreakers left. Over here he has 60, he has 72 right here, and the back he has 69, that's what she said, and 84 Nurgrimling's Ironbreakers as well. So we haven't done much of any damage at all. We've taken out the Miners, we took out the Rangers. His cannon has been taken out by these Pterodon Riders, who have been very useful actually at chasing off the gyros and providing some backline support, and they actually sniped out the cannon crew, and then from there I was able to kind of chase them off, which was really nice. But yeah, the Ironbreakers are just going to be really tough. So my opponent definitely wants to get Thorgrim in between these Ironbreakers, because right now they're a little bit exposed. You can see I'm getting some heavy fire. My Chameleons just have a nice little surround right here. I was able to reform their ranks so they wouldn't be obstructed, and they're just wailing on him. And you can see he has 120 armor, and he does have some sort of a baseline missile resist. Let's actually go ahead and see what that is. So it looks like it's only 15%, pretty standard for most lords, but we're still kind of wearing him down a little bit. Probably did about 400 or 500 HP. Which is definitely nice. And what's cool about Chameleons is, even if the battle gets really late game and really grindy, they still do have poison and okay melee stats, so they can help a little bit against these Ironbreakers here. So in the meantime, you can see these skink cohorts with javelins are just fighting against these guys, and the Ironbreakers definitely not caring at all and are just bashing them in just so brutally. 69 kills there. Over here it looks like the Peak Gate Guard, let's see how many kills they have. They have 64 as well. But Gary's in here fighting, and Gary does actually get attacked by Thorgrim. Thorgrim is going to be giving the Great Book of Grudges to these troops. So 40 melee attack on the Ironbreakers here, and then 63 on the Peak Gate Guard. Although I'm not sure if his aura is reaching them. I feel like it's not, based on what I see here. But the battle is very even. Bounce of power, yeah, it's too close to call. If anything, I think it's a little bit in my favor. But that's going to be tough, because a lot of my bounce of power, and I actually forgot about my Clever Girl. So the Clever Girl's coming into the to the Ironbreakers here. I was like, screw it, send them in. And they just take blasting charges to the faces they come in. they're not very tough. The Feral Cold ones are just a dirt cheap unit, so I wouldn't expect them to last terribly long, despite their 90 armor, but their combat stats are really low. And the Dwarves are definitely just going to rampage and pretty much rout them off the battlefield. But if they can even get a couple kills, it looks like they're up to 36. So I think what I was doing with them initially was chasing off the routing miners. That's actually what I was doing. But, you know, figured try and put a dent in these Iron Breakers. A little bit sloppy, but let's hope they can do Jabba the Hutt proud. So Jabba over here is just trying to scurry away. Thorgrim was actually chasing him, so it looks like we might actually... Oh man, the toilet seat wars is among us. The Great War has begun. And you can see Thorgrim is going to be pushing forward and just whacking Mazdamundi here, but Mazdamundi is not going to take that. He's going full Eric Cartman here. He's going to be turning and seeing if he can take out Thorgrim. But Thorgrim is a much stronger combatant. 59, 62, 450 to 26, 41, 288 right now for poison, actually 360 base. But he also does magic damage, Lord Mazdamundi, so against Thorgrim there's going to be an additional 25% mitigation since he is a dwarf, has that magic resist, so I did not want any part of that duel. So I start getting all of my little skinks here, just going to be applying some focus fire to Thorgrim, trying to drag him down. You can see Gary's definitely in the wrong neighborhood. He's trying to run right now, 40 speed compared to the 20 and I think like 34 of these other dwarves here. So Gary should be able to get away. And what's really nice about him is he does have the missile, little skinks that you can see are like glitch, just all glitchy, like standing in midair here. They actually apply poison to whoever's chasing them. That's why it's so tough to catch these. So I do pop the shield of the old ones and send in a couple skink cohorts who I knew wouldn't last long, but I just wanted to buy time to get a free charge with Gary. So Gary's going to charge in there and ramrod some of those guys while these Iron Breakers are kind of distracted, but my opponent very quickly realizes he wants to go there. But the main reason here I did this was because I wanted to get a Ruination of Cities. So I blob up his forces. There goes the first one. So not the best shot. Definitely not Mazdamundi's best work. He gets another one going out that direction, which is a complete wash. And I really wanted to get it just going like either like this direction or this direction. So I think the last one, let's actually see. So it goes this direction. It looks like it does get a handful of dwarves there. So ultimately, I still think it was worth it. Probably did some decent damage. Thorgrim still just being dragged down by the little chameleons. But guys, the balance of power is in the favor of the dwarves. So his infantry are just so resolute. The Norgrimling's Iron Breakers fighting off the Saurus warriors here. Other Saurus, I mean, they did put a dent in these guys like over the course of a long battle with some banishments and other magic utility from Jabba. And you can see another banishment going down right here. So that was huge. As soon as I cast that banishment, it was able to pull me back, and you can see the balance of power immediately tilts in my favor a little bit. And these Iron Breakers and just like so much value. I mean, that was like 40 and 50 here. They actually all get routed off the battlefield for the most part. So yeah, they're not going to be coming back, I don't think. And if they do, they're not going to be that impactful. So my skinks are out of ammunition. So guys, it is getting very, very grindy. You can see the Chameleon Skink 67. I'm going to be intercepting the Norgrimling's Iron Breakers, who have 176 kills. These are going to be one of the toughest units to take down. Over here, my Saurus Warriors are also fighting. And there's 50 Iron Breakers here. And I have my Pterodon Riders, which is going to be nice because they can cycle charge. So right now, Thorgrim was in the wrong neighborhood a little bit. So Jabba the Hutt and Gary are just going to be tag teaming him. Oh man, look how much bigger his toilet seat is up here. That thing is just giant. So Jabba's doing a pretty good job just fighting Thorgrim with the help of Saurus and Gary. We are able to break him, which is really nice. So I made a little bit of a mistake in this game. So Thorgrim actually gets away here. He's going to waddle. You can see I have some chameleons here, or some cohorts actually. But I don't end up chasing him off the battlefield, which was a huge mistake. I think I send these guys in, but I decided to change my mind. Oh, but it looks like he actually rallied, so that's what it was. Okay, so it wasn't too much of a mistake. Because during the game, I didn't really notice how he came back, but I actually, when I cast most of my games, I don't watch the replay beforehand. I just kind of watch it as is so I can re-experience it again. But yeah, right here, you can see he actually is able to rally. And I thought I was going to be able to chase him off the battlefield with the Pterodon Riders, but it looks like he just rallied like almost instantly. Because was he terrified? I don't think he was, maybe. But Thorgrim right here is going to be, Jabba smells blood in the water. He gets Harmonic Convergence, 52, 68, 360 for his combat stats. He's going to be jumping in there. I have chameleons here who are going to be flying in as well and applying poison. And you can see Thorgrim is actually at -1. Oh, but he comes back up to 13, but it looks like he does indeed break. So we're able to break the Grudge Bearer. From the distance, you can see 10 hammers here, 13 Iron Breakers, so a bunch of tattered dwarf troops everywhere, but just a bloody, atrocious battle in the pitched war of the Porcelain Throne. So the Norgrimling's Iron Breakers are standing firm, up to 217 kills, just bashing in these skinks right now. And yeah, what is the melee attack? 20 against the 82 melee defense, so it's probably just going to be like almost the bare minimum chance to hit here. But Thorgrim is actually getting forced off, so he only has 681 leadership here, so maybe this is where I made the mistake. So I think Thorgrim waddles away, and Jabba the Hutt chases him, but I was like, I need Jabba to win this battle here against the Iron Breakers. So I think what I did is I fly overhead with the Pterodon Riders, but my opponent did have some troops rallying here who are going to be able to potentially save Thorgrim. So you can see they gather around him, they rally to their king, and they're able to save Thorgrim, and I was like, oh no, when I saw that I was just so stressed out. My Pterodon Riders are coming back, and you can see he's able to break most of my troops. So now, despite the balance of power being in my favor, you can see it tilting back towards the middle, and all I really have is Jabba the Hutt and then this Rev Crystal. So I should pop the shield of the cold ones here. Shield the gold ones, shield the old ones. And that's going to give me some leadership and magic resist, which actually is pertinent against Thorgrim, who does magic damage. But yeah, like a lot of my troops are gone. I just have a couple of chameleons, and it was looking tough because if Thorgrim's able to kind of hold these guys together, but terror routing is a thing here when these troops are so tattered. That's going to be something that could be a chain reaction. I also get a rear charge into these guys with my remnants of my chameleon skanks, and he's just trying to chase Gary, but Gary's not going to have any of it. I wanted to make sure to save my heals, and you can see the Rev Crystal Heal is indeed going to be going off on Lord Jabba here. So Jabba the Hutt's putting up a great fight in the pits. The skanks are just going to be rushing in, and this is the final fight here. You can see the, oh man, that is so glitchy looking. That is so haggard. Oh my gosh. But Thorgrim is actually surrounded. He's actually terrified by Gary. I can't blame him. Just look at that face. Like, imagine waking up to that eye just looking at you, and it looks like he's biting in at the dwarves carrying him. And that's going to be all she wrote for the dwarves. So what an incredible game. Very well played to my opponent. I was not expecting like an elite Dawi army like that. Usually just like Dwarf Warriors and things like that, and like Longbeards do a pretty good job, but I mean those Ironbreakers were tough cookies to crack, so that was just a wild one. So today, Thorgrim will be back to fight again. I'm sure I'll have to try and play that battle from the other perspective, but for now, Jabba the Hutt would appear to be the king of the porcelain throne, but the High King never forgets a grudge, and he will indeed be back for vengeance, as I think, yeah, I'm going to be trying to get a Dav or maybe someone else on the channel to play this matchup from the other perspective to see who is the true king of the porcelain throne. So very well played to my opponent, but all jokes aside, I think definitely one of the better ways to play this matchup as a Lizardman is just to go very wide with Saurus and a couple harass units. I think the Rev Crystal is one of the few dinosaurs you should bring because the healing is just so powerful, and if you're really careful with it and Apotheosis, you can usually keep it alive. It's just so much healing. Maybe 2 Skanks would be fine, 2 Pterodon Riders, that would open up a more Saurus utility or other things like that. Maybe even like a Temple Guard for some extra AP against like elites. I'm not sure. I have to play it a little bit more. So very well played to my opponent, Korith, 2-1-2-1-2. I look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing Jabba the Hutt in action. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.